but I just want to let you know, you're one of my best friends, and now I don't feel safe with you.
Well, this is kind of on par for what it is to be a woman's body.
I would argue that a lot of corporate America is toxic masculinity.
A woman has gotten off birth control and then literally no longer been attracted to her partner and had to break up with them. In one case, it was a divorce.
Grace?
Any size, what we care about is the size of your heart.
Yes, but not that it's too big, because that's a real, disorder.
Not all men are bad, but there is a toxic...
Can't hurt the little feelings on our podcast. I don't know anyone more emotional than a man.
We might just need to unplug from this existing matrix, which I've also been thinking about a lot lately.
It's just the only question I have, which is, did you know that we know people who have never put their fingers in their vagina?
I did not know that.
But honestly, at this point, I just would prefer death. All right. Anyways, welcome to season 2 of Grace and Reyna Ruin Everything.
I'm Grace.
And I'm Reyna.
We bring you the conversations you should be having with your best friend.
We cover everything from conspiracy theories, sex, religion, and politics, and normal stuff like friendship.
In a world that feels increasingly black and white, we welcome the nuance.
Expect honest dialogue as we explore what it's like to be a human woman in her 30s.
Whether you're questioning the status quo, seeking deeper connection, or just here for the unhinged tangents, you've come to the right place.
We've got new episodes weekly.
Come for the combos, stay for the vibes.
I've been taking cough medicine, and last night I was on so many pills that I was like, what if I fucking die in my sleep?
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? Because I was like, I have a cough, I have mucus in my chest, so I'm like dextromorphin and Guasin and whatever. And then I was like, I need a Benadryl. No, literally, I was like, this is like what happens to people whose livers can't function, and I'm gonna wake up like Brittany Murphy dead. And then I was like, if that happens, I'm just not even care, because I'll be dead.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? That's a problem for you guys to deal with, not for me. I won't be sick anymore. I won't have any more work meetings. I went to bed very unconcerned about my impending death. Fortunately or unfortunately, my eyes opened this morning and I'm here.
Wow. Okay, well, I'm glad you made it.
Yeah. I'm glad you pressed record, are you?
My, oh my.
Yeah,
okay.
The cough medicine, though, is giving me a migraine. That's why.
No.
Because then I took an ibuprofen. It's apparently cough medicine can give you migraines.
Then you need something for that.
Yeah, whatever. No, I didn't take anything for that. Well, yeah, I did. Oh. But anyways, no acetaminophen, which is what's really bad for your liver. So I was like, all right, well, maybe I'll get an ulcer or something. But honestly, at this point, I just would prefer death. All right. Anyways, welcome back to our podcast. I feel like that's what I say because I always forget that we have a name.
Grace and Reyna Ruin Everything. Yeah, I told that to somebody at the Super Bowl party because they're like, oh yeah, you started a podcast, right? What's its name? It's a boy, so they don't they hadn't listened to it. I wasn't mad that they hadn't listened because they're not our target demo.
Well, you know, Pat messaged me and was like, I'm a listener. I was like, oh yeah, shout out Pat.
We're naming some of the boyfriends and husbands. No, we do. I think we have a couple the cool guys know what's up. But anyway, he was like, what's the name? And I said, Grace and Reyna Ruin Everything. And he just busted out laughing. And he's like, that's sick. That's sick. I was like, yeah, I don't know. We were trying our best. It was a whole thing. And we just kept coming back to it because it was so funny. He's like, yeah, I think it has some sting to it. Kind of like call her daddy. And I was like, okay.
I think it does. I don't know what it is about the name because it doesn't even necessarily go with what we talk about, but it just has a lot of personality. And I think for me, it was why I couldn't pick the other names that we were on.
Yeah, well, and we do ruin the topics. That's what I said, but
yeah. And at the time, I'm going to say this, I don't think you knew that you were going to be the conspiracy theorist. And I don't think any of the other names would have supported that persona, just FYI. It would have been too live, laugh, love and not, deep, dark web.
I mean, to be clear, none of our potential names were live, laugh, love. The other best one.
The other one was a little live, laugh, love.
Okay, listeners, the other idea was everything and nothing. Is that like live, laugh, love?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe in vagueness, but not in like loviness, like lightness.
Yeah, it's not. It's just not it. All
Okay,
right.
anyway, we're happy with where we're at.
Yeah, we are where we are. We're so far not changing the name, but you never know.
You live and you learn.
Yeah, one day at a time.
Okay, so speaking of living and learning,
And
we
laughing.
had a little bit, well, it wasn't really laughing. We had a little situation after our last episode we recorded. It was actually the episode about the Epstein files, but we ended up talking about ICE because we live in the current world that we live in. And we got into kind of like a heated debate, discussion around it. And then following that, we were supposed to record a couple days later, and then we couldn't record because Reyna was mad at me. No, I mean, I'll let you say.
Yeah, I mean, so we got into like a heated discussion whether or not you guys, I think people could tell we had our editor edit it down a little bit for like clarity, but we were like, just keep it in, but like we were talking in circles. And I think it's normal, like when you're in an argument, to feel a little like heated, hot, mad, even like, either at the person or like things they said or things you wish you said or whatever. And Grace and I argue a lot, not like debate. We call them debates. We debate a lot. So that's not, to me, weird or like abnormal for our friendship. And a lot of times we talk after we record the podcast. So like, even if we do that day, we continued talking while you were driving to pick up your daughters from work. Or from work. Yeah, they were at work.
Basically.
The capitalism from school. So a lot of times, like, even if that were to happen like it did, we're debriefing afterwards. And I think that helps a lot to like make sure that like, temper's cool, yada, yada, yada. Grace is so persistent and enthusiastic in her pursuit of data, I guess. And the Thursday night for me, like in the middle of the night while I was sleeping, she sent me this like barrage of text messages about just like the actual demographics of people being deported by ICE. And when I woke up,
compared to the demographics of illegal immigrants, I was looking at demographics of legal immigrants, illegal immigrants, and those that were being deported, because I just wanted to understand like actually what was actually happening. Correct. Or that's why I thought I was sending it. Sorry.
Yes, I would agree. And when I woke up, I had like 8 messages and I was like, what the fuck is this? And I was actually big mad. Like I responded to some of Grace's points. And then at the very end, I just said, gonna be honest with you, like you ruined my morning. And then Grace was just like, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. And I knew that she didn't mean to do that. And we were supposed to record that afternoon. And when we were kind of talking beforehand, I was like, listen, I don't want to record today, but we do need to talk. And we kind of got on, instead of recording, we decided to release what you guys will be hearing as last episode, which I think is about alcohol, which is what they call in the biz an evergreen episode. And I think we decided that it was important we talked, and then we decided it was important to bring this up because this is part of the reason why we made the podcast, is because people are getting into arguments like this in their day-to-day lives with people who may be close to them or acquaintances or coworkers or family members. And I think it's important to showcase, like, you can have, honestly, I don't even know that we have a different point of view, but at the time on the podcast 2 times ago, we were making just 2 different arguments, and we weren't really, I don't think we were like necessarily like listening to each other or doing a good job of like setting the stage for what we were trying to say so that the other person can understand where we were coming from. And for me, and I'll just say this for myself, like I am Black, I'm half Black, and talking about race for me is always going to be personal. There's not a way for me to disconnect it from how I feel about myself and how I feel and experience the world and how the world feels and experiences me. And I'm 35, so I have 35 years of experience dealing with racism. And so I think that sometimes some of these conversations can be hard, I think, for a lot of white people to deal with too, because they don't live in that world. It's easier for you, right, to talk about data as raw data and be like, oh, this is interesting. And for me, it's like, okay, but, and it's easy for me to feel threatened immediately. So what I told Grace was just like, hey, like, I get what you're saying, but I just want to let you know, like, you're one of my best friends, and now I don't feel safe with you. And that's like an important conversation to have, because I think sometimes when we talk about politics, we get so wrapped up in like what's right, what's wrong, what's constitutional. And then we forget, like, like we're people, we're real people. And then, for Grace's side, I'm not going to speak for you, but like, it's important to recognize, like, she also has her own experience with the way she views and sees the world and how the world sees her. And so I think for her, acknowledging that, yeah, she has loved ones in mind that she's thinking of. That's why she's making the point that she is. And I don't know if you want to talk about that at all.
Just what I brought up. Well, just what I brought up to you was that I wasn't trying to disqualify your experience. And actually, ironically, I'm probably side more on your side when it comes to being like, yeah, get the fuck out of here, ICE. Like, I don't like particularly even, I'm not like pro ICE even, but I was trying to have a debate and playing devil's advocate of showing the other side. And I think in that moment wasn't sensitive enough to you being my best friend and caring just about how you were actually feeling and like direct personal impact to you. But like, I was trying to make a point because I know a lot of people that vote Republican. Like, my parents identify as independents, but usually end up voting Republican. And that's obviously like, a worldview that I grew up in. And then I very much broke off from that and went super like liberal progressive and voted that direction a lot. But I actually really identify as independent, even though my voting record has always been to the left, actually. But I think sometimes when there are certain ways that like I feel like the left is trying to paint the right, I have my personal experiences of knowing people. So for example, if it's like, well, if you vote for Trump, you're a racist. I'm like, my parents voted for Trump before. Okay. Sorry, parents. I'm throwing you under the bus.
They're catching strays.
But it's just an example, right? Because this is what we're all doing all the time is we're extrapolating examples of people and things that we see, but there's infinite examples and infinite different iterations of how people are and what the experiences are. But my parents, for example, are not racist. Like, I'm pretty sure I've never seen any situation that would make me feel like they were racist. I mean, they live in New Hampshire. There's mostly white people there, but like, my dad's best friend was black. My dad's Jewish. I mean, I know that's not the same, but him and I have also had anti-Semitic experiences in our lives. And I'm not trying to like say that that's as bad or worse. I'm just saying, like, but I think it is what it is. But I think I was just trying to defend people that I think voted for Trump for different reasons, or maybe just have like a more cut and dry of like, yeah, we should deport illegal immigrants, and not because they're racist and not because they hate immigrants, but just because they're like, we think that if they're not here legally, then that should be okay for them to be deported, So anyway, but I think we got lost in the like, well, what if they are racist and what if they are, and it was I think we were speaking too abstractly instead of actually speaking to specific examples and experiences, which I think is what's happening a lot of times.
Yeah.
When people are shouting, especially on social media and whatever, and like you get into this just shouting match, and we lose like the grounding of real situations and real people and real stories where like oftentimes, again, we do agree. Like,
yeah,
like even if my parents aren't out there protesting ICE, I'm pretty sure when the Renee Good shooting happened, they were like, yeah, what the fuck is going on? Like, why is this woman getting shot in the street? Right. So like we can actually just distill down to real examples and then talk about those. So maybe we can be better at doing that in the future.
Yeah. I think we haven't done an episode on race. We probably should. It's something, obviously, for me, I think about all the time. But today is not about that. Today is about something
the other kind
bloody.
Race, gender. Oh. something bloody. We're getting into the gore, the horror.
Yes. The female body. So scary.
That's what they would want you to think.
Well, yeah. All right. We don't really have a smooth transition for this. Believe it or not, we did prepare, even though it doesn't sound like we did. So, oh yeah, but also, I don't know if I said this, we're not doing a rant and rave because we had to cover that whole pre-section. We don't have time, and Grace will be late to pick up her kids again if we do a rant and rave. Anyways, so Grace, I think you have a little story to kick us off.
Well,
Do you?
I think, no, I mean, it's not even a good story after all that. Basically, I had an ovarian cyst a couple months ago, gave me a pregnancy scare because my period was late, and then my period came after all, and then the next month I deduced it was an ovarian cyst because if you've ever had one, like, it's a very specific symptoms. It was around my ovulation time after that late period. Ovulation time had this like growing like pain and pressure right where my ovary would be. And, you know, it took like a quick Google to figure out and to not fall for like, well, it could be cancer, it could be this, could be that, but to be like, oh no, it's probably an ovarian cyst, which are really normal and happen if you're a menstruating woman. They happen during your life and they can be painful, and then it should subside.
It's just the only question I have, which
Please
is,
go.
did you know that we know people who have never put their fingers in their vagina?
I did not know that.
And I find that, sorry guys, I have a, you already know this. I already told the story. I have chest congestion. Okay, so, okay. This was kind of like part of the reason why I want to talk about this, because we feel like a lot of people don't know their bodies. There's a lot of layers to this conversation, and I think I may have jumped the gun, but this is the only way I know how to get into this. There are people who have never put their fingers in their vagina. I have since I've been like 12, for other reasons though, not for exploratory. Well, they were exploratory, but just like, you know, curiosity. I'm very curious. And I think that, and sometimes when people talk about never having putting their fingers in their vagina, they think it's gross.
Okay.
Do you?
Think it's gross to put your fingers around your own body? No.
Yeah. Why do you think that we have this like epidemic of people who are afraid to explore their own bodies?
Well, I think women especially have been taught for like millennials for millennial. Women especially have been taught for millennia that our body, like, it's like, oh, like, I don't know. It's like uncouth to.
Yeah, it's like forbidden, but not like
Yeah.
in the way that's like, ooh, forbidden. It's like,
No, I know. It's like,
you forbidden.
yeah, like it's like uncouth is the word I want to say. That's like a word my mom would have said at me to like touch yourself there or whatever. I mean, like my little daughters will be like naked on the couch, you know,
Yeah.
they're like toddlers or whatever, and they'll just be like doing God knows what. Anyway, I'm always careful. I try not to shame my daughters if they're exploring their bodies because I don't think it's something to be shamed. I think you can teach things like, yeah, that's like, you know, they can ask questions. You can tell them the answers. Like, you can talk about what parts of their body are, whatever. And then you can say things like, oh, normally if you want to do that, like, why don't you do that in the bathtub or like in your room, not like on the couch with your butt up in the air and like we have company over in the kitchen, or, you know, like you could just sort of do it without shaming them. But I don't think that that was always the way that we were taught or older generations were.
Yeah, and I think there's all these like, I mean, I think getting your period when you're in middle school, I was 11.
Well, this is kind of on par for what it is to be a woman's body. People don't really care about you.
People don't really care. I know. Not only are people disconnected, they don't really care. And like to the point where like a woman's body, to be fair, is very complex. And you were talking about this earlier today about how we operate on like a month-long cycle. I would venture to say like a lot of people don't really understand their cycle. Not even just like, and maybe they do now because a lot of our friends either having babies or are pregnant or have been avoiding pregnancy for so long that you really need to understand your cycle to be effective at doing that. but I feel like you grow up for most of your life, you don't really understand what's going on and what that means for you. And you have like a really interesting or really like, I don't know if it's interesting, but it's more just like a approach. You have an approach to managing your cycle. I feel like most people don't. Can you talk a little bit about your approach?
Well, one thing that was really interesting for me being a woman, well, first of all, I was on birth control for probably the first 10 years of my life. And
Well, no,
when,
not
I
the
mean, not the
10.
first 10 years of my life. I was on birth control for 10 years of my life, not the first 10.
The first 10, guys, she was not on any contraception.
Oh my God.
Please don't call child abuse people.
No. From when I was 15 or 16, maybe, till like 25-ish, 26 maybe. No, I think less than that, maybe 24, 25. As I think a lot of women are on birth control, right? Because maybe we don't want to have babies, maybe we want to be able to have sex. It's normal. But the deeper that I went into understanding like pharmaceuticals, effects on our bodies, and just like kind of going back to more natural, holistic in general, it started to make me question being on hormonal birth control my whole life. So then I got off of that, but I was still having sex. So I've been practicing like the family planning
Yeah.
method, or like natural, like now it's natural cycles and they have like an actual FDA
Yeah,
approved
pretty cool.
version of this.
Yeah.
But I've been like tracking my cycle, knowing when ish I could get pregnant and when I couldn't, and using abstinence and withdrawal during the times that abstinence and or withdrawal during the times that I could get pregnant for like now for like 10 years.
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of crazy. Which is cool, but I don't know. I realized that when I got off birth control, I really felt the effects of my period and my monthly cycle more, a lot more intensely than I did when I was on birth control. But I didn't necessarily find this a bad thing. I mean, maybe like at first, it was kind of a lot, but then I realized that, I mean, this is just our natural state. And as much
Yeah.
as you wouldn't believe it by what the healthcare system makes us believe, and the
Yeah.
pharma companies make us believe, and the med device companies make us believe, like this is actually our female bodies are made to go through this month-ish long cycle that sends us through essentially like, think of it as like going through all 4 seasons of the year within a month-long period. And we're meant to, like, we can work with that and honor that and live by that. But instead, we're always trying to like medicate it, manage it, handle it as
Yeah.
if it's like a problem to be fixed.
Yeah.
Which
I
is,
have
I
this
think,
book
yeah.
called Moody Bitches. And it's basically, I didn't read the whole thing. I just picked it up because I thought had a funny title. But it is about that. It's about how not only are we on like birth control, but maybe we're on like SSRIs or benzos or whatever to combat like anxiety or whatever. Or maybe we're on Adderall because we think we need to be productive when we're not being productive. And we're like, oh, the premise, maybe I should just read this fucking book, but it's that we're over medicated as women because we're trying to combat like our natural state of being. And to me, a lot of it has to do with the fact that like men rule the world, which, sorry, Pat, they're like the inferior race. Like they are. Like, hello. Add something that, what's that saying? It's like, add a like when women have some, like when women are in control of something, they always make it better. Like you give her a house, she makes it into a home. What do men do? Nothing. They don't do any of that.
Steal the neighbor's house.
Yeah, pretty much.
No. I don't want to make this like, okay, personally, maybe you want to make it a man-hating thing. I really don't want to make it a man-hating thing. I think there are amazing men out there. Like if you have the real healed, like whole masculine, and then like a real healed whole feminine, we are truly stronger and better
Complementary.
together.
Yeah.
And complementary, exactly.
Yeah.
And like actually that is the most powerful pairing. Like I always like make this joke, well, because I love to manifest, but really when me and Ryan want something like the same thing, holy shit, we can manifest it so quickly. And that's just like a spiritual esoteric example, but like really, I feel like we are like better than the sum of our parts together. But I think the problem is there's just been an outsized impact of men and the masculine that created and built our society and a lot of these structures and systems that we live within. I mean, like corporate America was founded for men and by men. It was never a place that was designed for women to work in. And then women joined in
By
like the 50s,
necessity.
60s, right? But it wasn't initially an environment that they were centered in. So of course it's going to cater to like the more masculine energy, the more masculine way of doing things, the more masculine way of working. So I think like again, I don't see it as like men are evil. I see it as like when we say we're living in a patriarchy, this is what we mean. There's a system designed by men for men, and
Yeah,
we are trying
but
to.
patriarchy goes farther than like when they say we're living in a patriarchy, it goes farther than that because there's a difference between like the masculine energy, like what you said, which, you know, is complementary to the feminine energy. I would argue that a lot of corporate America is toxic masculinity, not
Yes.
necessarily like masculine, like pure masculine energy, which I think is when people say like we're living in the patriarchy, they're more so talking about like those elements of how that impacts our lives, not necessarily like the pure masculine energy, which if you like know about isn't bad. It's a good thing. But I do think that when you let one group of people, no matter who that group of people are, what, you know, unless they're women, be in power for so long, like I'm just saying that the men could be any men, but women I think have a more like maternal of the earth communal way of living. I think they're just less likely to create a society that looks like the one that we're living in. But they've been in power for so long, some of these values get warped, right? Like they're not
Oh
the
yeah.
true masculine values. They are warped masculine values that now control corporate America, that now rule women, that we are part of. And we are becoming like the more represented group. Women are.
Yes, but it's so funny because like okay, like I think you were touching on something that I just want to talk about for a second, which is like okay, I saw somebody saying that if like Hillary Clinton or Kamala Harris would have been president, then we would finally see what like a matriarchy has to do. And I was like fell off
No.
my seat like
Yeah.
laughing because I was like that
They're
is
part
not
of,
they're a
yeah,
part
they're
of
in
the
the system that
yes,
that is
they
like what makes them successful because they have learned to navigate the system that we live in, but unrelatable because they're not different than the system that we already live in.
right. So, like, putting women at the top of the patriarchy doesn't make it a matriarchy because the
Correct.
thing is that the matriarchy would look entirely different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just a fully different system. It's not a pyramid with one person at the top, with
Yeah.
one woman at the top. I actually usually see when people talk about the matriarchy, it's described more like a circle
Yeah.
because it's this idea of there's enough to go around, there's enough for everybody. So, you give sovereignty to, let's say, like, every woman is the matriarch, right? And you give sovereignty to her, and then she's going to care and tend to and care for her family, her community, right? And like the men in her life and the children in her life.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not like one woman in charge and then we like filter down to the peasants at the bottom. Like that is patriarchy. That is the hierarchical system. And
Yes.
again, I don't blame not all men are bad, but there is a toxicness
Can't hurt the little
to that.
feelings on our podcast.
Yes. No, but I truly don't believe that. Like I do think that we've had this like because of the toxic masculinity and because of women having to live in this world that we feel like wasn't designed for us and that we're always having to like fit ourselves into and like medicate ourselves into and like calm ourselves down into and whatever, then we created this like this like feminist uprising. And then there's that kind of like angry feminine that's like, take the power back and the pussycat hats and whatever. And people also make, you can, I don't know, people, but I like really healing would just be women being empowered in their femininity and then being matched with the complementary whole masculine and then us both like ruling side by side
True.
together.
I think it's going to be really tough though when like I think they say that what was it? It's like I don't know the stats at the top of my head, but like it's a growing number of like young men who have never been in a relationship, but that number is not reflected in women because women are now just dating women. And there's like, you know, I think that for that to happen, there needs to be, and not to say I don't think all men are bad. I'm straight. Unfortunately, I am. But I've always had like found partners. I don't know. I've never had a hard time getting a boyfriend. Sorry, everybody. Like whatever. So, you know, I always find a good guy, but I do feel like this change, like shift in gender dynamics or women taking their power back is really uncomfortable for men. And obviously the cream will always rise to the top for men, and they will always be able, you know, all the good guys will never have any issues. But I think a lot of the average, mediocre, if they're not going to, since women are now working, since women are now, they're already the primary childcare providers, now they're out earning the men, there's less and less reason women are finding to have a male partner, especially if you can't, like, to your point, if they're not fully healed, they're not meeting the emotional needs. So women are just like, yeah, whatever. Well, now we don't need you at all. And we have IVF now. We really don't need you. So I do think there's a little bit of a reckoning there. I don't know the answer to that. We're on a really bad tangent because we weren't supposed to be talking about this, but
well, it's all what are we ever supposed to be talking about?
yeah, I know.
The rules. We make the rules.
Yeah, this is our fucking podcast.
This is how women's brains work, by the way. We're a little bit more creative. We're a little bit more you go where you're taken. I mean, it's also slightly neurodivergent.
But it is true because sometimes if you're talking to a man and they're like, you interrupted me, and you're like, that's called conversation. That's called conversation, babe. Like, hello. I talk, you interrupt, you talk, you interrupt, like whatever.
But you didn't follow their bullet-pointed agenda.
Well, we'll circle back to it. It's fine.
Yeah. So like I was at a doctor's appointment and he asked me if my periods are normal. And I was like, I think so. And I even know my body, but I was like, yeah. And then he was like, well, are they like so heavy or so bad or you're in so much pain that you can't like go out and operate and have a normal day? Like you can't, like, do they like keep you back from doing things? I think is what he said. And I kind of like looked at him funny because I was like, well, when I get my period, I try to take a day off and like rest. And he like looked at me and was like, oh, so like you can't function? Like that would be, you know, kind of being like, oh, do we need to like medicate you? Do we need to whatever? And I was like, no, like I can function, but I rest when I'm on my period. He like didn't, it was like, does not compute. Yeah. Like he didn't know how to move forward from that question because he has like a yes, no, like decision tree. But I like, these are the things, and it's just so simple and silly. And I actually talk about this like way too often, but like, I think it's so crazy that, okay, wait, hold on. Let me back up. There's a fine line between like empowering women by helping to meet their needs. So for example, I have like volunteered and spent some time in Africa. There are villages where girls don't have feminine products and they miss school for like a whole week when they're bleeding. They like can't participate, whatever. That feels sad and feels like reasons that women end up very disadvantaged in the society because they're like missing so much school and all this stuff. And in those moments, I'm like, wow, it's so amazing that we have feminine products and things so that like women can participate in society where they want to. But at the same time, I think we've gone so far in like America, let's say, where it's like, get your flex tampons in because you can't miss, like you have a friggin' school sports game and you gotta like fully like go in and do it all. I mean, this was me always. Like you wouldn't like, I wasn't like missing games for my period or something. You just are like, oh, well, we can soldier through. We have the feminine products and we just like keep showing up and you keep going. And I actually used to, when I was young, I remember thinking like there were some girls that would like be sick when they got their period. They'd like not be in school. And I like did not understand it. I thought it was so lame. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there is like a part of like the other side of it is that like women are taught to power through and soldier through. Like I know women who have like such bad periods because they have like endometriosis and they're in like debilitating pain and they're still going to work because they can't take the day off or like I mean, they probably could, but it's just who takes a day off for their period? Nobody does. Like,
Well, I do now, and I think that
yeah,
we all
well,
should. But the problem is,
yeah,
you can't do it. Like, it doesn't work again in this system, in the patriarchy, in corporate America. Like, it doesn't, it's not part of the way things are done. So if you are the one taking off a couple days every month just for that,
yeah,
unless you want that to be the only days you ever take off, it
true.
is going to start to like impact your work or look bad
Yeah,
on you or whatever, right?
yeah, it's
But
very
like
true.
that's why it's like in the matriarchy, we would just that would be part of it. Like women take a couple days off when they're bleeding,
Yeah,
and it's not expected. Like that's fine, and it's just part of the pace of life and the pace of work. So we don't know what that looks like, but
yeah. No, I
digress.
always think about how like my mom, when she had me, I think she worked at like Burger King. And I'm like, when did she go back to work after that? Like, I can't imagine she was gone from work that long and then just like went to work, like postpartum on her feet, slanging burgers.
I think the only federal like coverage that we have is the disability leave that's maybe like 4 weeks max.
Unpaid.
Well, the disability you can be on disability, which gives you like some percentage of
Mm,
your paycheck for just those 4 weeks. Yeah.
yeah.
Which some people do in addition to whatever they get from like their employers,
Yeah.
maternity leave, whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I
it's
think
crazy.
that
Like,
I've been on birth control like since I was 15, basically, as well. And I tried to come off it when I turned 30. I have PCOS, I think I've mentioned before. It's like I pretty much like can't be off of it. It's kind of at the same. I read this book, This Is Your Brain on Birth Control, and just like, okay, well, what happens when I come off of it? And it does suck. I think everyone's body is different, so this is one of those things that you have to like learn for yourself and kind of just see how it goes. I've been on every birth control known under the sun. I've been, whatever, on all of them. I'm on an IUD now. Um, and I think that's something that goes like really under discussed is like, to your point, like how much hormones play a part in who you are, on how your body reacts, on how you think, on how you experience the world. I mean, there's a lot of things I think people think, or a lot of like emotions or actions or tastes that people don't realize are influenced by their hormones, and just that fundamental lack of understanding of what hormones do to your body before making a decision like that, especially at such a young age, um, I think is something that we should be revisiting. Not to say that high schoolers shouldn't be on birth control, because there is like a part, where you want women to have agency over their bodies, which pretty much like birth control is one of the most important things that could have happened to women over the past however many years, whenever it was invented, to give us that agency over our body, to let us participate in corporate America, to let us go to school, to not just get pregnant at 16 and like have our lives be determined by, that single action. But I think there should be a lot of more conversation about, I don't know, maybe non-hormonal, like the non-hormonal IUD, copper IUD, not a good fit for anyone. I can't do that one, but like, there's options like that now too.
yeah, for sure. And I'm also not trying to say like don't be on birth control just because that's what I did. But I'm just talking about the fact that um our bodies are complex,
Yeah.
and I think we need to be I just wish that there was a little bit more of a focus on how do we understand the complexity and see how we can do things to support it, but also not trying to like override it or commandeer it or make it like act like turn your body into a man, like act like just stop your periods or whatever. It's like that's not, I don't think that that should be the solution overarchingly. I don't exactly know what that looks like in every scenario. Um, I mean, it's not just about birth control because Raina, you and I have talked about this before, but um like within the pharmaceutical industry, women haven't been properly represented in trials. This is known, like this is a well-known thing because actually for a while there was a law that said you could not include women of childbearing age in clinical trials. This was because they didn't want to be inadvertently testing on pregnant women and babies, which makes sense because that followed a horrible event, which was when they tested or failed to test thal- thal-
Oh, yeah.
thalidomide.
Mm-hmm. Is it morning sickness?
Yeah, it was a treatment for morning sickness
Yeah.
that wasn't adequately tested and ended up giving birth defects to children. There was like 10,000 children that were born with missing limbs because they had pushed this out to pregnant women without adequate testing. So then they made a law that was like no testing on pregnant women. But do you know, like, okay, listeners, I want you to guess, put a guess out of what year you think that it became mandatory for women to be included in clinical trials. What year do you think this was?
Pause so people can get their guesses together.
Send it to me in a DM, whatever. Put it on a comment. Okay, the answer is not the 60s, not the 70s, not even the 80s. 1993.
Yes.
1993. I was already born. I was a child. In 1993, the FDA created the NIH Revitalization Act that mandated that women be included in NIH-sponsored clinical trials. So even now, today, we have that law in place. But I think there's a lot of well, we know the stats because we know who isn't in trials. And as of at least 2019, women were massively underrepresented in
Still.
in trials on cancer, cardiovascular health, psychiatric disorders, and more. So literally, the drugs that we could be taking were not actually tested on our bodies. And this is because the body's so complex. Well, what do you mean? Like, oh, you have to deal with the hormones. You have to deal with the cycle.
It's actually
the pregnancy. But like, that's the reality. So
Yep.
when we take the drugs, have all of that going on.
Yeah, they purposely were leaving women out because it was like too expensive and too hard to get, what do they say? Like consistent results when you include women, or even not even women, mice, like female mice. Like they don't even want to include female mice. Like even at that level, they didn't want to include females because the bodies are so complex, which in my opinion means that they should be included even more so because we have no clue how they're going to react. Yes, how our hormones respond.
Like if you can't, if our bodies are so complex and our hormones are doing so much that introducing a drug, like we have no idea what it's going to do, like we should probably not just be like, okay, well, let's just assume what happens in men is what's going to happen to every woman when we literally just said that we have no idea what it's going to do in their body.
Yes.
And that's, I mean, that's a hyperbole, obviously, but like kind of.
Yeah. I mean, women have, they say lower metabolic rates. And the one thing I want to point out, in case people don't know, your sex hormones, which is what, primarily makes us different. You have receptors for your sex hormones all over your body, including your brain. So it does matter what those hormones are doing, and they impact your personality, they impact your sense of smell, they impact who you think is hot, they impact the kind of foods you like, they impact how much you need to sleep, all sorts of things like that you think might just be your quirky little personality could just be your hormones. So it is important that when you're taking birth control and you're taking like hormone analogs, basically, you are literally giving your receptors in your brain signals where you normally maybe wouldn't be giving them. I'm not anti-birth control because I am anti-births. So, I'm very pro birth control. I'm just saying that
all people
we should, no, just like you should just only be having births when you want them.
Yes.
Not when you don't want them.
Yeah, no forced birth. We're not Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah. Oh, yuck.
Sorry, throwback. Well, I also think it's funny because I know at least one case and probably multiple where a woman has gotten off birth control and then literally no longer been attracted to her partner and had to break up with them. In one case, it was a divorce.
Yeah. I read about stuff like that.
Well, I mean, it is very true. Like it
There's a lot of
changes what
studies.
you find attractive and
There's a
like
lot of
what
studies.
I think there's something to do with, I forget what direction, so look it up and let me know, but there's something about like when you're on birth control, you're more attracted to, I don't
More
know if it's like a baby face or not a baby face, and then
more
when you get off,
feminine. Yeah, I think
yeah,
you, yes.
and when you get off,
It's
you're
in
more
that same
attracted to the
book I
more
read, guys.
masculine with like
This
the
is your brain on
beards.
birth control. She
Yeah.
like goes through all these different studies about not only do you have different tastes, men can tell when women are ovulating, I think, but like are on birth control. So like you actually show up in the world differently when you're on birth control too. So like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it is different. Yeah, I know. When I went on birth control, I was dating Alex. I told him like, just so you know, like some people like their level of attraction changes when they get on birth control. And he was like, okay. We're still
Okay,
dating,
so we can
clearly.
test it. Test
But I
it.
was like, grow that beard. Just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such an interesting catch-22, and the things that women, every single woman has to worry about and deal with is figure out like what's the right decision for me. And so yeah, I wish society would do a little bit more to support us. I mean, hopefully we are going to continue to support women to have solutions that like work with our own bodies, and um I mean that would be my hope.
Yeah, and even not even just that, but just like you know, having more like pumping rooms and offices, like little decisions like that get made when you have more and more women in power. You know what I mean? Like helping make decisions for how companies are run or the considerations they make. That's why, to me, like diversity is important because it's not about not it's not always about that women deserve the opportunities. It's more that like when you don't have people from who are different making decisions, people don't think of things like this.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens with men too. It's not that like a lot of men want to intentionally cut out women. They're things that they just don't think about. Like for instance, my apartment building is new. I can tell a man designed everything in it. I'm like, what woman would make the shower like this? I can't tell if it's clean or dirty. It's obviously someone who's never cleaned a shower before in their entire fucking lives. Or the sink, all of it is like a man designed this. And it's crazy when you're living your life and you can tell that just from how inefficiently it is made. It's
I
actually kind of crazy.
I was like just telling this story, but it was making me laugh because we had my daughter's birthday party on Saturday, and I
Oh,
like sent
nice.
Ryan to the store to get a few things. I gave a list, and then of course he called me like 7 times while
I
he was
know.
at the store, with questions and whatever. And it was reminding me there's like a meme of a girl who like she's like washing dishes, and then she's like, oh, and she's like, oh no, and she like runs, and it's like, I forgot my husband's at the grocery store and my phone's on silent. And then she like goes to the phone, and it's just like 100 calls and text, and he's like, hello, like, do you want this one or this one? Oh, where are you? And she's like, ah, like it was just so funny because I was telling it to a couple other moms, and they're like, oh yeah, I mean, like, they don't like, are they okay? And I was laughing that like one time we got a new dishwasher. This was like years ago. We got a dishwasher, and then like a year later, Ryan was like, how do you start this? And I was like, I mean, I knew you weren't like doing the dishes, but like, oh my God, you've never started the dishwasher. And it was literally a year later. And like, so anyway, yeah,
Yeah,
representation.
the grocery store thing for sure. I will say this, since Grace doesn't want me to hate on men for an hour, even though I think that would be fun. Um, I had the same experience that you just said with the dishwasher, but reversed with our sheets. Like I realized after we were moving to New York and Alex was working a lot and I was unemployed. This is, by the way, I'd already been unemployed for 6 months and I had to wash the sheets. And I was like, do we wash the sheets on hot or warm? Because then it had dawned on me. We'd lived together for a year and a half. For 6 of those months, I was unemployed. I'd never washed the sheets once. So sometimes,
Yes, there's different, yeah, there's
they do
different
what they do.
tasks for different people, okay?
Yeah.
And you gotta make sure that it nets out equal. Pat's on for Pat,
Oh yeah, Pat
he's
cooks.
really helpful.
Yeah.
He's really helpful. Pat, you're a king. We love you. We love you. Well, yeah. Anyway, I think if we were really going to start the matriarchy that would like honor women's bodies and cycles and like, we might have to kind of like start over. Like, I might just like, we might just need to like unplug from this existing matrix, which I've also been thinking about a lot lately, and just kind of like go back to like basics. Do you ever just have like the urge to like live off the land?
Or you know who you're talking to?
I know you.
Oh my God. When I was a kid, my brother and I used to play this game, which I'm gonna say the name, guys, but like just bear with me. It was called Escape of the Slaves. And we would always pretend, and someone should just do like a psychoanalyzing on me of like why we were doing this. But it was always around Christmas time because we have a Christmas tree inside, and we would always pretend like we were running away from, I guess, our enslavers. And we would pick fruit and stuff off the Christmas tree like we were like harvesting from the land. And that's like always been my dream, is to like Castaway.
Maybe, well, hopefully like less scary than Castaway. It's a
Sure.
pretty sad one.
Maybe more like
Mine
Lost.
is like, yeah, I don't know. I don't have like a good example of mine, but mine's gonna be like, yeah, just like a farm, and like why is it like the millennial woman's biggest fantasy is like making sourdough bread and having chickens? Like we are.
Yeah, see, I'm in my fantasy where like there's
It's
no
more
civilization. Yeah, it's like nobody's around. It's like you are living off the land. You just have your wits. There's no internet. Like it's
Also, I feel like maybe you had like a past life thing with
oh
this
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, because also at the end of my time in LA, I would be on the freeway and I'd look around and I would see all the concrete and then I'd feel like nauseated. Like just from like, oh, we've perverted this land so much.
Oh,
Yeah, so I think there's something going on there, but
yeah. Well, yeah, I know. They tricked us. Because
I would be free bleeding everywhere. It'd be cool. All right, we don't really know if this podcast
what happened
had
this week
a topic.
Okay,
We'll probably have to cover this again.
There's more that we were supposed to talk about. Oh, such as, I'll just leave you here. This will be my ending. Did you know that in ancient Greece, whenever women were like upset, emotional, like flipping out, whatever, I don't know, like anything, they would have, whether it was like mental, emotional, or like physical symptoms, the doctors would just label it hysteria, and then the treatment was a hysterectomy. So that's like removing your uterus. So they're like, the uterus is the cause of all of this hysteria. We must remove it. And they would just cut it out, which, God, it was probably like, I don't think that probably went very well. This is ancient Greece.
Yeah.
And that was like the solution, because again, it was this idea of like, uh-oh, women's body, too complex, too much going on here. Let's just like cut out what makes her a woman and that'll fix it, right? And I feel like we're kind of still a little bit nice barbarically, but like to some degree it's still the same vibe.
Have you ever seen those ads from the 50s that are like, oh, for your like kind of like that, like your anxiety or whatever, but they're like neck massagers, but really they're vibrators?
No, but
it was like the same idea, but it was like maybe you should
some of your angst.
Yeah, your tension relievers.
Well, I also had a crazy thought the other day because I was watching the Barbie movie, which I actually love so much on so many levels. And I was thinking, like, when they're always like, oh, women, we're too emotional, we're too like volatile, oh, we couldn't be in charge. And I was like, wait, but all the things we're like emotional and volatile about are basically caused by men, or because we live in this society and this patriarchy. So I'm like, wait. What if women were in charge, like, and we wouldn't even have anything to be hysterical about?
I mean, one, I agree. But two, I think that I don't know anyone more emotional than a man. Like, they like present differently. Do you know what I mean? Like, they don't cry, but they get worked up. And like, they get just as worked up for like that book, this is Your Brand of Birth Control. She talks about it, how women's cycles, although we have a 28-day cycle on average, it's regular. If a girl tells you or a woman tells you what day they're on their cycle, someone else can tell you what your hormones are doing. A man, their hormones respond to all of their outside stimuli.
Well, theirs goes through a 24-hour cycle. So it's more, this is why like men are the ones that are like, my daily routine, because like they're like, they wake up with a certain, like, it's like they wake up at the same time with the same amount of energy. And then if they just like do the same things, they will like feel the same
Yeah,
way.
but like they have their testosterone will fluctuate if their sports team wins, if their sports team loses. If a girl walks by that's hot, like that doesn't happen to us. We're not hormonal in that way. They are that hormonal in that way. Our body is doing the same thing it does every month, and they are hormonal in that sense. They just have this really convenient little thing where like anger somehow doesn't count as emotional. And so, just passion.
Anger is, that's part of emotion.
I know. It's on the emotions wheel that my therapist gave me.
Oh, yeah. Well, so then that makes it real.
It's totally real. No, okay, whatever. We don't hate men. Whatever Grace said.
I don't hate men. I love men, the good ones.
Jury's out. I could still use some convincing if you're a man.
If you're a man, you should better start doing some work on Reyna.
Yeah. Write a letter.
You guys can be good.
Yeah.
We're those kings out there.
Short kings.
They don't have to be short.
Oh.
They can just be full size. They can be any size. You can be any
full size. You hear that, guys?
Any
Grace?
Size.
Grace.
Any size. What we care about is the size of your heart.
Yes. But not that it's too big, because that's a real like disorder.
Okay, now I really
cardiomegaly or whatever it's called. All right. Anyways,
I have to go pick up my daughter, but at least the cardiac medication's probably tested on men.
Yes, true.
Mic drop.
All
right. Well, I don't know if we got through what we're going to, but
we didn't. The last question we're supposed to ask before we end this is, what's something that women could do to get to feel empowered in their bodies?
Well, I think a lot of it is just that, like, so not to like go in a whole nother direction, but like we literally are disconnected from our bodies. Like we spend too much time in our minds, up in our head, like all humans do. We're not like in our bodies. We're not like embodied in our bodies. And that can sound so like woo, but it's very real. So I think like the first thing is like, we're not understanding where we're at in our cycle and like understanding what our body needs. It's like that everything about being in tune with your body as a woman is like, it's highly intuitive. So all you need to do is be like aware of your own body, curious about your own body, willing to like spend time to just check in with it, to see how you feel, and to not be constantly trying to override. Like, again, if you're doing too much caffeine, taking too much Adderall, taking all these things, like you can't even actually feel how your actual true body feels without all of that, with that all stripped away. And I think like that's the beginning, because when you're just like more like checking in every day and being like, wow, like, do I feel tired? Do I feel energized? Do I feel like, you know, and like operating more from that place and being like, what does my body need? What do I need today? Like, I think that is where we, like, I don't know, that's been the most empowering thing for me. What do you think, Reyna?
I think everybody should get naked, go in the mirror, sit in front of it, open your legs, stick your fingers in your vagina, move your fingers around, take it out, smell it a little bit, and maybe lick it if you're daring.
Oh,
have you ever? I mean, I'm always like, what's it taste like? I always wonder. I always smell my. I don't know. I just like to know.
Oh yeah, of course you've smelled your own scent. I mean, I have definitely. I don't know if I've like literally stuck my fingers in it and tasted it.
But I just go like this, like
I've done that. No, I mean, like, now I'm like, yeah.
I'm not like eating it.
I'm not shaming you. I don't think it's disgusting.
Well,
I don't think I've
wait.
done
So your daughters can play with themselves on the kitchen couch, but when I do it, suddenly it's a nuisance?
No, I'm just like intrigued. Like, oh shit.
Yeah, why not? I mean,
maybe I should
whatever.
Maybe I should expand my curiosity. That's a good one. I agree. I think that's good.
Like, why not? It's yours. Yeah. Plus,
yes,
other people are down there.
Oh, figure out where, find your cervix.
Oh, yeah. Yes. That's actually good. You should know, because it feels different during your cycle. I touch it. It's like a little boop. like a
Well,
nose.
like when I had the ovarian cyst. Did I tell this story? Or did we or not? I don't even know anymore. When I had the ovarian cyst, somebody was like, "Well, how do you know that it's on your ovary where you feel it?" And blah blah blah. I was like, "What do you mean? Like that's what are you talking about?" Like I was like, "That's where the ovary goes." And they're like, "What do you even know?" I'm like, "Do you not know where your ovary would be?"
I
Because
know.
like that's more concerning. So yeah, like look at some anatomy. Oh, we still need to get, we said this once, we want to get one of those like stuffed animals,
Oh yeah, like
like
teaching.
anatomy dolls or something.
Yeah.
Maybe next time we'll bring that on.
All right, so that's what you guys can do. This episode was weird, but you liked it and you want more of it?
Yeah.
Yes. Tune in next week where we talk about something else completely hinged. Oh shoot, someone's calling me. I gotta go.
Okay.
All right. See you guys later. Bye.
Bye.